Becoming a billionaire is easy. Ready? Here's the entire secret. Solve a problem for a staggering number of people, then IPO. That's it, that's the video. Thanks for watching. Okay, fine, there's more. Because the gap between solve a problem and become a trillionaire by Friday is where it gets interesting. And where most people faceplant so hard, we'll be laughing at them by minute 8. But tattoo rules 0 on your brain first. You don't get rich by wanting money. You get rich by creating value and then capturing a slice of it. Money is just the receipt. Elon Musk became the first trillionaire in human history last Friday by following one path. The same path Jeff Bezos and a guy who sells you graphics cards in a cool leather jacket both walked. So let's walk it. The path has 4 stages: value, private, public, then you do it all again at scale, go. Stage 1, create the value. Find something broken and fix it. Computers stuck in corporate basements, put one on every desk. Buying books is annoying, ship them to the door. Everybody tries to skip this part, and nobody can because the market eventually checks your homework. You cannot fake value forever. 2 founders in this video are about to discover that painfully. Stage 2, stay private and grow. You and your early backers on the whole thing, the public can't buy in, and counterintuitively, you should linger here. Every year private, while the value compounds, you get richer while still owning almost all of it. SpaceX stayed private for 24 years. That's not slow. That's a founder watching the balloon inflate while keeping the entire balloon. Stage 3, go public, the IPO. You sell shares to the world for the first time. You hire bankers, Goldman, Morgan Stanley, to price and sell it, and they take a fee. There's always a fee. You file the S1, the giant honest document with all your numbers and lawsuits. Honest because lying in it is a prison thing, which is exactly why nobody reads it. You do a roadshow pitching giant investors. You lock the offering price on pricing night, and then the market opens. The gap between what insiders paid and what the public pays is the pop. A pop feels like a party, but a huge pop secretly means you priced too low and gave free money to institutions. Even the victory lap can be a mistake. And the single most important move in the entire IPO, dual-class shares. 2 kinds of stock. The public gets 1 vote per share, you get 10. This is how you take the world's money and never let anyone tell you what to do. Remember it. It's how the smart ones stay kings. Stage 4, do it all again, at scale. The IPO isn't the finish line, it's the fundraising gun that lets you go create value for the entire planet. And here's the pattern you're about to watch. As the value a founder gives humanity grows, their net worth grows right alongside it, like a shadow. Let's meet them, and I'll tell you exactly how to be like them, or absolutely not. Steve Jobs, the ultimate value. He made the computer personal and then made it disappear into your pocket. How that value evolved. It went from a beige box hobbyists loved, to the Mac, to the iPod, to the iPhone, a device that rewired how 8 billion people live, work, argue, and waste their afternoons. The story is the great tragic one. He built it, got fired from his own company, watched it nearly go bankrupt, came back, and turned it into the most valuable company on earth. On IPO day in 1980, his roughly 15% stake was worth $217 million. The tragedy is the ending. He sold his Apple stake over the years, and when he died in 2011, he was worth about $10.2 billion, the bulk of it from Pixar and Disney, not Apple. So the man who created Apple's value barely held any of it. Lesson, and it stings: create the value, then don't let go. Jeff Bezos, the ultimate value. He made buying anything frictionless, and then quietly became the plumbing the internet itself runs on. How that value evolved. Books to your door, then everything to your door, then AWS, the cloud that powers half the websites you'll visit today. The story is the patient grind. No firing, no near death, just decades of relentless compounding while everyone called it just books. IPO day, 1997. His 41% stake worth maybe $120 million, and Wall Street yawned. Today he's worth roughly $240 to $290 billion, depending on the day, and here's the breakdown that matters. About 90% of that is still Amazon stock. The rest is Blue Origin, the Washington Post, a comically large yacht, and cash from years of share sales. He held the core. That's the whole difference between him and Jobs, be Bezos. Larry Page and Sergey Brin. The ultimate value. They organized all of human knowledge so you could find it in half a second. How that value evolved. From search that works into YouTube, Android, Maps, and now Gemini steering the AI era. The story is the cleanest run in the book. No tragedy, no crash, just two PhD students who pulled the king move at the IPO. In 2004, they used dual-class shares to sell the public a slice of the profits, but never the steering wheel. On IPO day, each owned about 16%, worth 3 to 4 billion. Today, each is worth roughly 250 to 300 billion, and it's still overwhelmingly Alphabet stock. More value to humanity, more money, total control kept. Textbook. Mark Zuckerberg, the ultimate value. He connected a third of the planet on one network. How that value evolved. From a college directory to the global town square to Instagram and WhatsApp to billions poured into AI. The story is the brutal comeback arc, and it's why I love it. Facebook's 2012 IPO was a catastrophe. Nasdaq's computers literally glitched. The stock cratered 19% in 2 days. The headlines screamed, "Worst IPO ever," and it stayed underwater for 14 months. 28-year-old Zuckerberg watched 20 billion in paper wealth get publicly roasted. Then the value scaled to mobile, and the net worth chased it up to about 215 billion today, still mostly his Meta stake. Lesson: the market is slow to price real value. The first day tells you nothing. If you actually built something, the receipt eventually catches up. Jack Ma, the ultimate value. He handed hundreds of millions of people their first real way to buy and sell online. How that value evolved. From a scrappy marketplace into Taobao, Tmall, and the Alipay ecosystem that an entire economy runs on. The story is triumph then turbulence. Alibaba's 2014 IPO was the biggest on earth at the time, 17 times oversubscribed, and after a 38% pop, Ma was worth 25.4 billion and a national hero. Then the twist no spreadsheet warned anyone about. China's government cracked down, and his fortune slid from a 48 billion peak to about 28 billion today, still anchored to Alibaba and Ant. Lesson: your net worth doesn't only track the value you create, it also tracks whether the people in power let you keep it. Pick your country carefully. It's a lever you don't fully control. Now the cautionary comedy. The formula is value first. These two skipped it. Adam Neumann, the ultimate value. He rented you a desk with free beer next to it. How the value evolved. It didn't. He just slapped the word tech on a real estate company and inflated it to a $47 billion valuation. The story is pure farce. His IPO document literally claimed WeWork would elevate the world's consciousness for a company that sublets office space, and investors noticed he was leasing buildings he personally owned back to his own company. The market laughed the IPO off the stage. It never even traded. The company went bankrupt in 2023. The infuriating punchline. He still walked away a billionaire, worth a few billion today off the payout and his new venture. Lesson: you can narrate value all day, but the S1 is where the dream meets the spreadsheet, and the dream usually loses. Don't be the man whose own prospectus becomes a meme. Petscom, the ultimate value. Shipping 30-pound bags of dog food across the country at a loss. How it evolved? It didn't, it just died. They had a beloved sock puppet mascot, a Super Bowl ad, and zero working math. 268 days after the IPO, they shut down at 22 cents a share. No founder fortune, no comeback, just a permanent punchline. They sold dollar bills for 90 cents and called it disruption. Lesson: a mascot is not value. Negative value, sold enthusiastically, is still negative value. And my favorite, because it's the most hopeful, Jensen Huang. The ultimate value. He made computers see and think. How that value evolved is the wildest arc in tech. He built chips to make video games prettier in 1999, and 25 years later, those exact same chips turned out to be the literal engine of the entire AI revolution. The story is the slow burn. a tiny chip maker with 93 million in revenue, his stake worth a few million, the stock forgotten for a decade after the dot-com crash. Then AI arrived and needed his GPUs more than anything on Earth. Today, Jensen Huang is worth around 160 to 190 billion, and roughly 97% of that is a single asset, his NVIDIA stake. He diluted himself from over 50% at founding down to under 4%, but 4% of the most valuable company on the planet beats 50% of a company nobody needed. Lesson: build real value, share equity to win the best people, and outlast everyone's impatience. So why did Elon crack $1 trillion when nobody ever had? Because he ran the whole formula at maximum. The ultimate value: reusable rockets that slash the cost of leaving Earth, plus Starlink beaming internet to 10 million plus people who never had it. How it evolved? From "can this thing even reach orbit" to launching most of the planet's payloads and wiring up its dead zones, with Mars as the absurd, sincere endgame. The story is the masterclass. He stayed private 24 years, so the value got colossal while he owned almost all of it. Then on June 12, 2026, he ran the IPO and sold just 4.3% of the company. A sliver. Demand went nuclear, the stock popped, and SpaceX closed worth $2.11 trillion, making him the first trillionaire at around $1.1 trillion. And the king move: he kept 82% of the votes. The overwhelming majority of his fortune is now that SpaceX plus XAI stake, with Tesla as the rest. He took the world's money and surrendered basically zero control. That's not luck. That's value, kept private long, taken public surgically, control retained, every lever you just learned, pulled at once. Are the skeptics screaming? Loudly. The valuation is about 94 times revenue. Morningstar says earnings would have to grow 75-fold by 2035 to justify it. Believers call it the space and AI platform of the century. Skeptics call it the biggest bet on a promise ever made. And that tension is the whole point of where we land. Because strip away the bankers and the tickers and the sock puppet, and here's what an IPO actually is. The moment the world places a giant bet on how much value it believes you'll create in the future. The stock price isn't your worth today. It's humanity's collective guess about your tomorrow. So the first principle of this entire game is almost embarrassingly simple. Don't chase the receipt. Chase the value, and then hold the thing you built. Bezos held the core and kept 9/10 of his fortune in it. Jensen held, and 97% of his wealth is one company. Jobs let go and missed hundreds of billions. The market is slow, noisy, glitchy, and occasionally gets clipped by a government. But over a long enough time, it pays you in proportion to the value you actually create and the ownership you had the nerve to keep. So forget about becoming a billionaire. That's the receipt. Go find what's broken for 1 billion people, fix it, and refuse to let go. The trillion takes care of itself. So, what are you going to build? Subscribe to Systems Demystified. Next time, we take apart the next machine before anyone else sees it coming. This is education, not financial advice. Build something real.